Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Fabulous After 50. Now, today we have a fascinating woman on a fascinating topic. Welcome, Simone Moir, bestselling author, speaker, and empowerment coach specialized in spiritual, emotional, and hormonal well-being. And today we are talking about Ramadan and how women can learn from each other during Ramadan, no matter their religion. So welcome, Simona. Thank you for bringing us such a fascinating topic. And maybe before we go into the reason why you, a non-Muslim woman, wanted to actually write a book on the topic and talk about it today, but maybe first you introduce yourself in your own words. So who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yes, yeah, you pronounced my name beautifully. It usually gets butchered, so I really appreciate that.
I
I'm
remembered
Simona.
we've had Simona before. I remembered.
I work as an international coach, really. The word empowerment is really overused, and a lot of coaches use it that shouldn't use it. I really feel like I don't interfere with you. I
Right.
hold the space and I really help you lower the noise in your head so you can hear you. I help you get away with a lot of clutter that holds you back so that you can be pulled forward by your soul. I teach authenticity. I don't pretend I know what's right for you. It's anything that I suggest, I need you to check in with, see if it's right for you. Just because it's right with a lot of women doesn't mean it's right with you. I encourage you to go your own path. And that's kind of like what I do in all. I also teach yoga therapy. And again, it's about embodying you, not just
Right.
following some
Yeah.
kind of concept.
No, you have a very beautiful, very unique way. Simona is really a woman of light, a woman of deep, deep wisdom, intensely compassionate and open and very, very intuitive. So I feel very blessed to have you with us today. Now, we do have a fascinating topic. So Ramadan, and we will be actually broadcasting this on the first day of Ramadan.
Yes.
So well timed. And it's about Ramadan. You yourself are not a Muslim woman, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not. And I can't say I knew so much about Islam before I started writing. Like probably everyone, I've had experiences. I've had a childhood friend from Lebanon, which was supposed to have an arranged marriage, which
Right.
that we managed to stop by learning more about the Quran and speaking to the family who had a really, really different opinion. So that was kind of like my first like teenage, young adult. It was really confusing how anyone could think that it's okay to have to marry your twice removed uncle, which is much
Mhm.
older than you. So
So
to
this had
me, being
a,
a liberal woman, that was a biggie.
yeah, it
So
must have had a big impression with you as a teenager. This is all new.
yeah, I couldn't believe it that any
Mm.
religion would have the right to do that. It's not, she needs to spend her life with this geezer.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
but he was much older than her. So that was kind of like an unpleasant encounter. And then I studied yoga therapy in India, and it's all about oneness meditation. We're
Mm.
all one. And then you go, even inside the ashram, there's a caste, and
Hmm.
they really have an issue with Islam. Like
Okay.
it's a big thing. Like they're really quite Islamophobic wherever
Okay.
you go. And as a 20-year-old, I went like, this is not right. I need to do
Mm.
something about that. And then I kind of like forgot about it, right?
Mm.
But I distinctively know being in India going, this is not right. I need to
Right.
say something.
Okay, so these are strong experiences that you'd had then, which have formed you in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I traveled lots of different countries. They all happen to be the top 10 Islamophobic countries is where I've lived in. But in each of those countries, I've learned my skills, my lovely little tips and treats that I have in the book. They wouldn't have come if I wouldn't have lived there. And actually, when I finished the book, I had to have a good cry
Mm.
because it really felt like not a step was mistaken
Mm.
because every single of these countries, I give them the opportunity to contribute to the sacred month for the women they
Right.
are not supporting.
Okay, now let's take a step back for the audience then, because
Mhm.
as I mentioned, you have written a book which has something to do with Ramadan. So first of all,
Yeah.
what's the title of your book?
So it's called Ramadan, subtitle, For the Woman You Are.
Right.
Mhm.
So why? So you've had these different experiences. Why this book? Why now?
So last year, Mother's Day, which is a week from now, I think, was also like Thursday, the first day of Ramadan, Sunday, Mother's Day. And I've published my last book. So I just sent it off to the editors and I just wished for 4 days off for Mother's Day. I don't want any flowers, no chocolate, just give me some days off. So I went to a beautiful place. I took my laptop to binge on some movies,
Hmm?
actually. I
Hmm.
just
Fair
wanted to
enough,
kind of like
right?
all these movies I never had time to watch. Like, get snuggle up, watch some movies. Well, I meditate, right? And it's not so much intuitive. I get told what to do.
Yes, I've
Like I
heard.
haven't moved 33 times because I felt like I wanted to move. I'm very, very guided and I just follow because I've learned it hurts me if I don't. Um,
Okay.
I was told in my morning meditation, today is the day where you will do something about the prejudice that comes with Islam. It's like, really? Do that, right? Nice one. So it's like sit down and write. So there was something coming slightly before, just a few days before. I've had in my coaching clients, a few Muslim women, and I get given them advice over the years with things in Ramadan. And one of them is an author, and she actually has a document on what I've given her the advice. And she
Okay.
sent me just before Ramadan, she sent me this document and said, you know what? You need to write a pamphlet or a book on this. This is not okay not to share this. This is too good. It works. Shared it with my friends. It's really good. And we don't know any of it. I said, okay, let's just make it the pamphlet, right? It's
Right.
like, okay, give it to my Muslim friends for a present for Ramadan. So I started writing like a mad person. 4 days, I just wrote. I didn't even know what I was writing. I just
Okay.
wrote and wrote as like these tips. I get into the different topics in a minute. And it just flowed out of me. I didn't
Oh,
even think. I was just like, just typing. I always thought about that song where you go like, bing, diddly,
oh
diddly.
yeah.
It was a bit like that. And I barely ate and I barely slept.
You're in a flow complete, right?
I was in an
Yeah.
altered state.
Yeah.
It was just like
Yeah.
incredible. And then I sent this copy off to my friends. And then I kind of like forgot about it. Ramadan came and went, and I didn't really think about it again. I thought the job was done, right?
Yeah.
The pamphlet was written. So after Ramadan, one at a time came back and just said, like, oh my God,
Mm.
this is a book. You need to write it. You need to publish it. I said, I can't write on Islam. I'm not even a Muslim. I've
Yeah.
never done Ramadan. Like, let's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
let's be realistic here. And they said, what do you need? We help you. And I said, well, with a think tank of women, we could probably together write a book, And
Okay.
so they have been for the last nearly a year. I've positioned myself to places where they introduced me to different women's groups, and I've just asked questions and asked questions.
Right.
And we found out that there's four main reasons why you lack focus in Ramadan. The whole focus is putting God first and your prayers first. So if you have digestive issues because you overeat at night, it really
Mm.
lowers your focus. So I wrote one chapter on digestion, another chapter on hydration, which is a huge
Yeah,
issue.
of
I'll
course.
share
Yeah.
a little tool on that, which is good for all of us. And then it's like sleep.
Mm.
Sleeping on a full stomach is really tricky.
Yeah.
Well, I have the tools to either make you catch up with sleep when you're fasting with yoga nidra, or to help you sleep on a full stomach. So I know all these things, right? And then they're just like in my wonderful brain somewhere. And then it's about exercise. You can feel quite sluggish. You don't have the energy to move.
Yeah.
Your lymphatic system gets sluggish, and then you can't really focus.
And it's a month, right? Isn't it, Ramadan? So we're not talking about just a few days or something.
No,
It's a
no,
month is quite a long time.
it's a commitment. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's worthwhile getting it right. So I wrote on those bits. So that's kind of like what the overcoming the obstacles. And then I wrote a chapter on focus, on how to focus. And it has a lot to
Mm.
do with sides of the brain and, switching and all sorts of other things. It's beautiful, beautiful. And that's kind of like all these points. If you do intermittent fasting, which is really popular, all of these tips are valid.
That's right. So that's why you've called it, this goes beyond religion, right? In a way,
It's like, but
yeah,
also you will learn a little bit more about Islam, which kind of like lowers
yeah.
our prejudice. It makes us more familiar with each other. So it's a beautiful book for a spiritual person.
Or even I would say in our troubled times, it's all, as an encourager of peace amongst
yeah,
us all.
yeah. And we all know that women are not always nice to each other.
True. True.
Yeah. It's the same within Islam, even within the groups that I've met, there's dynamics,
Yes. Yeah.
I've kind of like tried to transcend anything I've heard about Islam I don't like. I just
Right.
ignored.
Yes.
And I just focused on 1 billion women praying for a month intensively
Yeah.
for the same thing I pray for. Well,
Yes.
they get my support
True.
because numbers do count. And anyone else praying or meditating, in fact, is welcome to join for
Yeah.
peace and a sustainable future.
Yeah.
And if we
So
can put our differences behind and
that's it,
focus
right?
on actually our goal, that will make a huge difference.
Because I was just going back to the title of this one, how women can learn from each other during Ramadan, no matter their religion. So it started off as tips to help your Muslim friends have a healthy and, well-being also, let's say, Ramadan. As you say, sleeping on a heavy tummy, and the focus from also losing night sleep as well, because you usually eat later, and then the lack of energy during the day. I mean, and also depending where you live, of course. Ramadan in Northern Europe is perhaps easier to do than, I mean, some of the countries where I lived where there was Ramadan, and they would still go to the gym and everything. And I think, oh my goodness, you're losing so much water. Should you really be doing this during the month of Ramadan? But they have their way in this community. I was in awe of watching them all together and this pleasure. And then at the end of Ramadan, it's called Eid, where I was.
What a
These,
party.
yeah, and a whole world comes together. It was really strong and really beautiful. But so this book is helping, as you say, overcome also some of the prejudice. I mean, we're always aggressive or defensive against things that we don't know because we fear them. So you're helping from that point of view. And then these tips. So it's a very intriguing combination. So what would you say your aim is with the book, Simona?
Well, it's like really building bridges between,
Yeah.
as I said, spiritual people, but I need to actually take that back because the person that has supported me most in writing it cheered me on and really kind of like created some things with me that are really special. He is an absolute atheist. And he says that he has been transformed. He has changed completely from a interesting, opinionated, really loud, really extremist American into he really holds with reverence every
Right.
word that I write. It's so beautiful. So that has been already a miracle.
Yes.
Say it's
Yeah.
just for spiritual people, and it really has had an impact. It's like, the focus is Ramadan. Let's not pretend it's an intermittent fasting book because it's not. Because
No. Yeah.
we will move on to the spiritual side of things. There's actually the rest of the book is about spirituality,
Okay.
which is really that's my life.
Yes.
That's just like I can't write a book without it. But it's just like if you gift this book to someone you care about, if it's a Muslim, that's great. If not, it is like a warm hug. It's so sweet. And I would like to just share a few tips with you to kind of like
Yes.
show you that you can actually do it outside Ramadan. Anyone can do it, and there's lots of them. And if you keep in mind that the book was written for the woman you are, who am I to know which woman you are? So I wrote it with like a 76-year-old Muslim who fasted for 50 years, had children in between. You don't need to fast when you're breastfeeding or pregnant. And students, a doctor student, and and they were like people that have been raised with quite a really harsh hand to pray, and there's a negative tinge to the praying. So I addressed trauma, forgiveness, I also,
Wow.
because I'm a non-Muslim, I don't look down on you if you don't pray 5 times a day, right?
Yes,
Pray
yes,
once properly and that's good. So I
yes.
don't have that. There's no shame or guilt when I speak to you at all. Like, even if you are fallen away from your
Yeah.
spiritual life, maybe this Ramadan is a great reminder to actually just embrace your prayers again, know your
Yeah.
spiritual, your
Yeah.
gratitude. Start with
Yes,
gratitude,
yes, yes.
and that's a clarity, gratitude, curiosity. All those are chapters in there that are really lightweight, easy to digest for anyone.
That's
Um,
beautiful. So
so
basically it's for all women, right?
it really is.
For the
It
woman you
really
are,
is.
as you say, that's each and every one of us in our entirely unique way.
Exactly. And it's written the book. So you will never need it to read it cover from cover because it's just like not everything applies to you. Maybe you're sweet sleeping, no problem at all, or you have
Right.
the handed down family recipes, you know what you're doing, probably more than I do. But if you're struggling, if that's what stops you from your focus, read that chapter.
Okay, so you can literally keep it there as a
Just
guidebook and you just
that
dip in it when
chapter.
you need. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And another month, another week, another day, another chapter might come for you. And it's for years to come. You can make
Yes.
notes in it. There's spaces for notes
Oh,
in there. Yeah.
it really
But if
is.
you think about it, if I speak on exercise, right? There will be people that are couch potatoes that have never done exercise before, and there will be the people that go to the gym.
Right.
So there's HIIT exercises in there. There's yoga in there. There's a rebounder, which is fantastic for moving your lymph. And there's an exercise, which I would be honored to share with you, where you don't need to move at all.
Aha. Right, you're going to share some stuff with us now, right? Freebies. Go on, feed us.
Well, I learned this from a Japanese chap. It's called Jitsu, and it's the power in your hand. It's an art and healing art form. Just rub your hands a bit, just wake them up a bit. So our hands are like magnets and they have healing power. And there's energy locks in our system that do different things and move that power. This is fantastic when you're flying and you're afraid of thrombosis and things like that. It's exactly what it does. So it brings the energy through your hips and thighs and it helps your metabolism. All you
Okay.
do is you take your hands and you sit on them.
Upside
You
down
sit.
or? Oh, yeah.
Well, let me demonstrate. In between your thighs and your buttock, just like that. And
Yeah, exactly. So you're literally sitting on the outside of your hand, right? Yes, yes,
got it?
yes.
Right? Or if you go to the movies and you don't need to hold hands with your beloved, obviously. You could still do one hand.
Yeah. Oh, how incredible. So, but that could also apply then, for example, if you're sitting for a long time in a meeting, or behind the computer, if you're listening to a webinar or something, you can also sit on your hands as well. Okay,
My
good.
90-year-old father-in-law has like a spinal problem. He can't move at all, like he just needs to sit. Well, he can sit on his
You can
hands
sit
just
on his
fine.
hands.
And
Right.
he actually feels after, and he's the vicar. He's not into he's not into woo-woo, but it gives him the satisfaction because he was a very, very able man before
Right.
this fall. And it just feels like there's something happening. It's
So
just
what did you
something
say
happening.
exactly it does?
So it helps speed up your metabolism.
Speed up your metabolism.
And your largest muscles are in your thighs and your bum.
Ah,
And it's an energy lock. It's like Reiki or something. But you don't
yeah.
need to imagine your hands up. As soon as they're activated,
Yeah,
they're like
that's right.
magnets.
Yeah, there's energy
Universal
in them,
energy
right?
runs
Yeah.
through there. And it's like putting magnets there. You could put 2 magnets there if you have magnets around. You don't need to sit on your
And
hands.
how long? I mean, as long as you feel like it, basically.
It doesn't, you're not having thinner thighs and a bum with one sitting on your hands. But if it becomes a habit when you're sitting on your hands, it doesn't make a sizable difference.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
Well,
really
thank you for that
handy.
one. I think that, especially for so many of us who are sedentary, who have jobs or buses drives or
Yeah,
car drives or plane flights
yeah.
or whatsoever, that's a very useful and simple one. It's so empowering to be able, sorry, that word again, to be able to use yourself. You don't need to take anything extra with you. All you need is to remember to do it and to make a difference. So thank you very much for that tip. So if we come back to the book, which is then, Ramadan and tips for Ramadan, which are there for all of us
Mhm.
and which can be applied in all areas and moments of our life, and very broad. So I hear it goes from gym to hydration and food and spirituality and traumas. I mean, I'm a bit like, gosh, what has she not covered in this book?
Oh, parenting as well.
Parenting as well.
And reparenting yourself and dealing with your parents. That's also in there under service, because that is our service.
Right.
Looking after our kids. They're not ours. They're ours to serve.
That is very true. So, okay, what other tips do you have that you could share with us?
Well, I have a really cool tip from Australia. It's in the hydration chapter, and it's called the running stone. You can take any stone. I usually prefer to take a crystal. There's a few different crystals that I suggested, which are really good.
I have one
So
just here.
you
I don't
need
know if you
to
can even
find
see it.
your running stone. It can't be too big, it can't be too small, and it can't be swallowed. You can't swallow
Oh,
it.
yes,
right?
yes.
You will. So if you're really dehydrated on the go somewhere and there's no water, right? Or when you're in Ramadan and you need to drive a car and you feel your brain is like a prune and you can't focus, but you need to pick the kids up from school or something like that. This is an amazing trick from the Aborigines in Australia. You put it in your mouth.
Right. You suck on it. So, okay, mine's a bit big. I'm maybe not going to put this one in my mouth. I just picked up the first one I saw. Because you're creating saliva, right?
Exactly. It's
right.
like having a drench. It's amazing. And it's not just kind of like dehydrating you more or something like that. It actually gives your brain the feeling of that you're not thirsty.
Yeah, because there's a feeling of wetness, right? So I think already psychologically you think you've got water in your mouth, right?
Isn't it amazing?
That is very clever.
This one was a number one tip all my Muslim women said. It's like, you must be kidding. Yeah. Why does no one tell us? Surely that should have been taught.
Yeah.
And if you think it's a cheat or something like that, only use it in an emergency and have the stone
exactly.
with you.
You're supposed to be swallowing your saliva during Ramadan. So I remember you weren't supposed to kiss on the mouth as well. I remember
one thing you can swallow.
When I was 15.
A grain of sand on it, so that's why I use crystals rather than just like picking up a, because you could swallow a grain of sand, very bad. But if you have to handle heavy machinery or drive a car and you don't feel quite up for it, well, that is a good emergency backup.
Running stone.
The running stone. And in the Olympic Games in the olden days, the long distance runners, they all carried a stone.
See, how have we forgotten that? Such a useful tip to have been given down over the generations, right?
I know. And I learned that in Australia. So how beautiful.
So your tips are also from various areas around the world then?
From all around the world, yes. So from Canada, France, Italy, Japan,
and you've chosen something
China.
specific each time. So one of them will be maybe also a certain country, a certain food, a certain country, a certain exercise.
All different things. The most bizarre things you've ever heard. Worth a try. It doesn't harm. None of it I do harms.
Yes.
And it's just if
it's
not for you,
tip. I can
just know it's for another woman.
Yeah.
That part wasn't for the woman you are. That was for the woman someone else is.
Yes. But that's great, because like that you can help someone else.
Yeah.
Go and give us one last tip.
Okay, one last tip, which is cayenne pepper. If you don't have cayenne pepper on your spice board, put it on your next shopping list. So fasting women in menopause, all sorts of women might have a hot body and cold feet when they go to sleep.
Oh, yes.
Hot head, busy in the head, and ice cold feet.
Yes.
You don't need to fast for that. We all can have those moments, right? Not everyone has them, but if you have cold feet, it doesn't make for a good night's sleep.
Very true. I sleep with socks.
Well, socks are fine, but do you know that they insulate your feet? So your feet are just cold inside of the socks. Sometimes your feet are so cold that it's becomes like packing an ice pack. Yeah. So also hot water bottle would be the next go-to, but that weakens your heart because the external heat for your foot makes your heart lazy. Doesn't need to pump all the way down to the feet.
You're such a source of wisdom. I don't know where you get all this from. You always know so much stuff. Okay.
So actually with time, you will get colder feet when you use hot water bottles. So taking a little bit of oil, putting a little bit of cayenne pepper on, and putting it on the sole of your feet. That's only possible if you don't have cracked or open feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oil
And you
and
put it
pepper
on
on
there, and then you put a
soles.
sock over it. And your heart will pump so hard that
Right.
your head gets cool. You can sleep better, right? And your feet get warm. And not just your feet, your whole body gets warm.
Wonderful. Now, Simona, we have to sadly end because I can tell you're taking us on a world trip here. So it's not only, Ramadan for Muslim women, Ramadan for non-Muslim women, tip out everything and, all the things that we need in life and from various areas around the world. I mean, it seems like a huge trip you're taking us on.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm extremely grateful. I'm sorry about your retreat where you're supposed to be doing nothing apart from binge on films, but I'm very grateful for the rest of us who have this book to behold. So before we sign off, Simona, how can people get hold of your book?
So I have a website which is accompanying the book, but you can just sign up. You don't have to have the book, but like the Kindle is like £1. It would be
Right.
silly not to have it. And you can also gift it to people you care about.
But give us the name just for people who are, for example, listening to the podcast version, driving or something or other.
Yeah.
What's the name of your website for this?
So the website is Ramadan, the number 4, and then you spelled out, YOU.org. Ramadan4u.org.
Clever. Very good. Well, at least people will remember that. And it is for all of us. Simona, thank you very much. Thank you for having received this and thank you for having shared this with all of us. And I wish it on all of us to get the book, to understand more about the whole concept, and what we understand a little bit scares us a lot less and makes for a lot more bridges, as you were saying before, and which will make the world a much better place, let alone all these absolutely amazing tips that we also, whether we're Muslim or non-Muslim, can use in our lives and share around us. So thank you to you, Simona. Thank you very, very much. And to the rest of you listening, I would say ramadan4u.org. Go and take a look. All the very
And a
best.
happy belated International Women's Day.
That's also true.
That's
International Women's Day as well.
All coming
Exactly.
together.
So
All coming
Ramadan
together.
and International Women's Day. We're certainly blessed for all of that. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you so much.